Today on Locked On Canadiens, if anyone from Colorado calls Kent Hughes, he needs to hang up the phone immediately.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We thank you all for making us your first listen of the day every day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. And you will get us every day, even through the Four Nations break and the bye week. We're here for you every weekday, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Laura Saab, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. Ian, both of us do not want Casey Mittelstadt in exchange for whoever the Canadiens are selling at this point.
Yeah, no, that's you joked off the top of the show. The Colorado Avalanche should be blocked on Kent Hughes' phone after the results of the last trade just not going particularly well. You can argue that, well, what they got from Colorado, they were able to get Alex Carrier, who's been really good.
Yeah.
But they got Artturi Lehkonen and a Stanley Cup. So I think that's it's not quite fair. It's sort of like Edmonton, right? The Montreal sent Brett Kulak to Edmonton in exchange for, I believe, William Lagesson as a warm body and a second round pick, which ended up becoming Lane Hudson. Yeah. And cool, they got a guy, but we got Lane Hudson. So that's everything in balance.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about this and I love the way this was phrased by Elliot Friedman, saying the Habs are looking for hockey trades with Yoel Armia and Jake Evans possibly on the way out. Because to me, I thought we were playing hockey. I didn't realize that baseball trades or football trades were on the table.
Yeah.
But I think what he means is roster for roster player. I think that's kind of how I interpreted that.
Yeah, I think at least, I don't know that he'll get that for Yoel Armia or Jake Evans because they're both pending free agents. They're going to be mercenary rentals for whatever team picks them up. Hopefully it's the same team, honestly.
That'd be really fun.
If they can find a way to make that salary work, cool. That works for me. And it would just be cool to see them go and do their penalty kill thing on the same unit. Teams have watched them play enough to know that it works.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool if they went to the same team. But I think the part about this, the part of what Elliot Friedman said that I think got everybody buzzing a little bit was the term impact player. That he's not looking to just add around the fringes. He wants to take a swing. This is, we sort of thought that would come in the summer, but I think now that everybody knows what the salary cap is going to be next year, that why not strike now? You know how much money you're going to have. You might as well take some swings now while teams are potentially looking to offboard now. In hoping to get better at the moment, although I don't know how a team let me ask you this: when you think of impact player, who are you thinking? What are the names out there that come to your mind?
I hate to say this because we've talked about it so much, but I do think that Trevor Zegras could be an impact player on this roster. I really do. And I know it's because, there were so many rumors linking them. Kent Hughes wants him, all of that. His name comes up a lot. And then it's do we want him and we don't want him? But I think through all of that, the more I think about it, the more it feels like he would fit in with this group in particular. And I do think that he is an impact player. To me, in Montreal, he's a completely different player than he is in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's it. It's there are so many players. Army is an example. Jeff Petrie is an example, right? They come to Montreal, and because of the way that the roster's set up and the way that the coaching is, things work out better. And so for me, I think it's definitely Trevor Zegras. And I also think that the answer that I gave you is a realistic answer, because if you were to ask me who's an impact player, well, Nathan McKinnon is an impact player, right? Draisaitl is an impact player. These guys are not coming to Montreal.
How low do you have to go before they stop being impact players? Is I guess what I'm wondering, right? Noah Dobson, impact
player. Yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. And I agree with you on Trevor Zegras. I know that, there's Montreal and Anaheim have been connected for a while here. And usually that's, a lot of times when Montreal's name is thrown in there, or like the Rangers or the Maple Leafs, it's to draw engagement, right? And it's to
Yeah.
put pressure on the teams. A lot of times maybe the agents are leaking that so that the teams are under some more pressure to make a deal, because now it's getting more media attention. But Montreal has been linked to Trevor Zegras now for over a year. That has to mean something, right?
Yes.
It doesn't mean that Kent Hughes called them once and went, nah, not for us. Like that to me screams that Montreal is interested in the player. And just watching what's going on with Trevor Zegras in Anaheim, it very much seems like Anaheim isn't sure what they have in him.
Right, exactly that.
The
And I feel like Montreal would be able to give him a role to fulfill.
Right. And I just think he would thrive under a guy like Marty St. Louis instead of Greg Cronin, who, by all, stories being told, is not really a super liked guy in that locker room. I know Jakob Silverberg went to his to Swedish press and was basically saying, he berated us on the bench. He was a bad guy. He made us stand in front of the bench, and he yelled at all of us during a game. Like, he got them all off the bench to stand, and he just berated them. Maybe not the best environment for a guy like Trevor Zegras to come up in. But Marty St. Louis, like, I feel like that's a much better fit for that player. That player has downsides. He's not particularly strong in his own end, but the Canadiens right now, like, I'm not worried about the way they play defense so much as the way that they create offense consistently, because that's, to me, the main issue this year has been they're not able to create consistently. The defense has improved. It's taken, some steps back in the last few days with some mistakes, but how they generate offense, to me, needs to be what they're looking at this year on the trade market or headed into the summer. I think that those are the hardest pieces to come by. And if you can land a guy like that, that's sort of what you should be trying to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And the thing is, like, everything has parameters, right? So if you threw in a better coach at Anaheim, are they ready now to win? I don't think
No,
so. No.
I really like what Anaheim is building. I think
Yes.
that they've got something going there. They have a lot of good prospects. I like Leo Carlson a lot. The goalie, Lucas Dostal, is going to be an absolute star in this league if he isn't
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Like that, they're building something really great out there. Can Montreal send something out there to entice them to finally go, okay, we can move on from Trevor Zegras? I know it had been rumored that I believe Logan Mailloux was offered in a trade in the past, which kind of makes sense. The Ducks, they got rid of Jamie Drysdale in order to get Cutter Gauthier. That's a defensive, not a defensive prospect. He was an established NHL player at that point, but that maybe they're trying to replenish that part of their pipeline. And he sort of fits in the mold of what they're trying to do, right? At least the age that they're trying to be as a core. So maybe there's something to be made from that. Maybe that's why we saw Logan Mailloux step into the lineup for a few games and then suddenly just leave the lineup for no reason, right? Like, maybe that's why we're seeing that. I don't know. I don't have any information on any of this, but the way that Mailloux was inserted into the lineup and then removed was very fishy to me, and it remains fishy. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think it was Marty putting together the best lineup possible. I think it was, something else.
Showcase and then prevent injury. I think for
Yeah.
me, the big thing with Anaheim is if you look at their drafting, right? We got really lucky with getting Ivan Demidov because of the decision that Anaheim ended up making, right? And it feels to me that Anaheim has this puzzle that they're building, and like the pieces specifically have to fit, right? Like they have a very it feels like they have a very rigid and direct idea of what they want, because
Yeah.
did they take the BPA at the draft? Like, God love him, Beckett Seneca, but no, even he was surprised, right?
Yeah.
Did they take somebody who was worthy of that spot? So they really have an idea of what they want their lineup to look like 2, 3, 5 years from now, which is not to say Montreal doesn't, right? And so
Yeah.
sometimes things don't work out, and sometimes, like there's a difference of opinion as to what a player should be or how they should be. So for me, in my estimation, like, this could be just a situation where maybe, yes, they are looking for Logan Mailloux.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I really just I don't know what to expect with Kent Hughes. There's always names floating around there. The fact that it's even out there that he's looking for an impact player, I don't really even know that changes the way that I think he sees the rebuild right now, because he's tried to add impact players already. He just
Yes.
tried. I don't know if you guys remember this guy, Patrik Laine, they got over the summer. That's an impact player when he's on his game.
Yeah.
Like that's he's done it already, and they are shifting forward. They're trying to get better now. So the timing of this makes a lot of sense, and I think the NHL releasing the salary cap numbers helps teams like Montreal try to fit those cap puzzle pieces together. It's going to be an interesting couple weeks.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of Patrik Laine, a little bit later in this episode, we're going to talk about whether the break / him playing in the Four Nations is going to help him get back on track. But before we do that, we want to talk about the Four Nations itself. There's not been, it feels a little bit lukewarm. The excitement about it isn't as much as we thought it would be, or the NHL at least thought it would be. So let's talk about that and talk about what could make it more compelling and what could entice more people to watch. And that's coming up in just a second. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in that spot where you need to do the right hire like yesterday. The pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback. And the right person really is important. It really can make or break your team or your entire business sometimes. And that's exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs comes in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. All right, so here's a little secret that I'll let you guys in. I don't even know if it's all that much of a secret, but in the weeks leading up to the Four Nations, I was approached multiple times by people saying that they had a handle on free tickets to some of the games. And that to me is not a great sign because Montreal is a great hockey city. Boston is a fantastic hockey city. And you're apparently getting, or you're supposed to be getting the best of the best playing in a Four Nations tournament. The fact that the NHL had to give, well, there were free tickets on the market. I don't even know specifically how the NHL was going about it. But there were free tickets on the market to a show where, like, an event, where there should have been markup. There should have been, a mad scramble for tickets. It should have sold out in a minute. And it did not happen. So I don't think fans are as excited about the Four Nations as the NHL got excited about their own idea when they decided to conceive of this. So,
Yeah.
Ian, let's talk about that for a second. Are you excited for the Four Nations?
I'm excited for one game, and I believe it's the game on Valentine's Day, which is Canada-US. That's
Yeah.
the game I'm most excited for. It's gonna that game is going to rule. In a vacuum, it's awesome, right? The fact that we get to see those two teams go at it, that's kind of why we watch the sport, right? Is for moments like that. But I almost, it's not that I want to push back on the idea of Montreal being a great hockey city, but when these international things come to Montreal, they don't really get the love that they should. I remember when World Juniors was there a while ago, the turnout wasn't great for events that didn't involve Canada.
Yeah.
And I think Montreal loves the Canadiens and they love watching Canada play, but they could take or leave the rest of the stuff. They love the Victoire, but and I bet they'd show up for women's international hockey there too, but they're not playing they're not playing the same thing that they're playing at this Four Nations tournament. I just think that this whole tournament was the NHL just going, fine, here you go. Like that was it. It was very flippant, and you want this here. You can have this again. Even though they did the World Cup a few years ago now. Now it's 9 years ago that World Cup happened. And that was awesome. We all loved that World Cup. And it was silly and stupid because they had two really silly and stupid teams. And one of them was playing in the final. It was fun. They did a really great job with that tournament. The U23 North America team was so good. It was so good because it was like, would young Connor McDavid, after one season in the NHL, have made Team Canada? Maybe, but he wouldn't have played the role that he did on that team. Nathan McKinnon was on that team. I think people like thumb their nose at Team North America, but like we were all rooting for that team to win because it was really
100%.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this tournament is missing something like that is going to, I don't know, bring in people who aren't necessarily rooting for one country here, and they just want to see a really cool event. They're missing that sort of juice. They're missing it.
Yes, and to me, it just seems like they're treating it like any other international tournament. Well, we get those. We get one once a year.
Yeah.
And then apparently, countries get really mad if you say no and you want to rest in the off season and they don't invite you to the next one. But like the Olympics is the Olympics. It is something, it's something out of this world, right? Like it's the elite of the elite of the elite. And all the other ones are just, whoever they chose or whoever was able to make it. And so the way that they treated this was, I think, particularly in the case of Team Canada, and maybe you can agree with me or disagree with in the case of Team USA, they galaxy brained it. They overthought it. And they, it's a very short tournament. You just take the best possible players. You don't worry about grit. You don't worry about defensive liabilities. You take the most skilled players. And then, that would have made it more exciting. That would have been really fun, just like end-to-end run and gun hockey, every game being like 10-9 or whatever. That's what I would have been looking for. And in the absence of that, they didn't even come up with a gimmick like Team North America. And I understand too, like with the situation in the world, the political situation, all of that.
Sure.
I totally get it. And this Friday's game is going to be supercharged because of the current political climate. But at the same time, like that's not, it shouldn't be about like, nationalistic. It should be something fun. It should be something where we all have a stake and we all have a rooting interest. And honestly, for me, I don't see it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't necessarily know, like, I mean, they can't do anything at this point to fix it, and it's probably going to be the last one of these. I can't think that they're going to do this very often. I also think that, like, Czechia they just won the world championships. Like, why aren't they here?
Yeah, exactly.
Slovakia is a great hockey country. Why are they not here? And I get it. Like, I think it's because they're all NHL players, and that's the thing. And I don't know. You definitely can't build a full NHL team for those
but you
countries.
could build a Europe.
Right, you could do team rest of Europe like they did years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I don't know. As somebody who, like, so I'm an American. My family's Canadian. I've always rooted for Canada, but like I've never felt a connection to it from a nationalistic standpoint. I've never been like, that's my country, because it's not. I was born here.
Yeah.
So like for me, and I know I'm not the main target audience in that sort of demographic. Most people are not like me. But I've never, like, I don't know who to root for really, other than like I'm gonna watch a lot of Finland games because I want to see like how Patrik Laine plays and how Yoel Armia plays.
Yeah.
And Sam Montembeault is not going to play for Canada. Most likely, he was listed as their third goalie at their first practice. And if he ever sees the net, it's probably because something catastrophic has happened. So like I don't know. Like I don't know what to do with the rest of this. Who's your favorite in the tournament? Like looking at the rosters as they were released, like do you have someone that you think is head and shoulders above the rest?
Or someone who was robbed, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like I understand the point behind your question. Like, is there a rooting interest for a person? Like, is there one guy that I could like really get behind? And I'm struggling a little bit too because again, it just feels like any other international tournament, doesn't it?
Yeah. Who wins the tournament?
I don't want to say because then our listeners will stop talking to me. I don't know. Finland. It's actually Team Sweden. I think Team Sweden has it.
Sweden, I think they've got a very, very strong roster. Yeah. I just think the American hockey program has come so far, and they are my team to beat. They are so stacked at every position.
There you go.
I really think that they're great. You can boo me in the comments if you want, whatever. I just like.
But see, this is the thing. Like the decisions they made were better than the decisions that Canada made.
1,000%. And that's not unique to this tournament. Every Hockey Canada makes bad decisions at every tournament they go to.
Yes.
And bad decisions outside of tournaments, for what it's worth. They're just not a very well-run organization, and they haven't been for a very, very long time. And that's,
That was
That's just
USA's, Canada's loss was USA's gain.
yeah. And well, USA, their whole tournament, their whole machine is they get all these guys to play on the USN TDP, and they just play on that team forever, and they
Yeah.
never leave that program. Like all of these guys that are on this team have all come through that program together. So like that's why it's exciting. The loss of Quinn Hughes hurts Team USA. He won't play. He was really torn up about it, but he is injured and he wants to stay healthy for a potential playoff run with the Canucks, which I understand. But you
Is
know
it happening,
that
do you think?
no, I don't know. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but that is what it is. But yeah, I think Team USA is really good. I think it could be them and Sweden in the final.
I'm
I hope it's
also,
good hockey. That's all I hope for, is that
yeah,
the product is good.
the gains are compelling, but I also I look through a lot of the Team Canada rosters, and it's like this guy is he's almost dead and he just came back from injury. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Sidney
Why is
Crosby.
Drew Doughty on this roster?
Yeah, Sidney Crosby's playing hurt, and he's going to be
Yeah.
their number one center from the looks at practice. So also it was super weird to see Team Canada all on the ice at the Canadiens practice facility. That was super funny. They, I was like, I think that's, and they looked up and all the banners are up there. I'm like, no, that's definitely the Canadiens practice facility. That's
Yeah.
really funny.
Yes, that's actually where they are. I know because a journalist friend of mine had to go out there today.
At least
They
Sam
have
didn't
us
have to
going
go
in the
far.
suburbs. Yeah. He said they have us going out to the suburbs, but I'll be back in the city tomorrow.
Nice.
But that's really funny. I was just trying to think if I'm hitching my wagon to Team Sweden, who am I cheering for? Uh, let's say Leo Carlson.
There you go. Great pick.
That's gonna be my guy.
Second Leo Carlson mentioned on this show. Way
There
to go,
you
Leo
go.
Carlson.
Locked
Locked
on
on
Leo
Leo Carlson over here.
And then we can make a little graphic for him too, like we have our Magic Mike.
Future Montreal Canadian Leo Carlson. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, future Montreal Canadian Leo Carlson. Maybe that's what we get with the Jake Evans
Yeah,
trade.
there you go.
Jake Evans, Yoel Armia, Logan Mayu. Who else? You can have David Savard for free.
Yeah, he's throwing.
Just get 6 or 7 players. All right, we got to move on, and we are going to talk a little bit about Patrik Laine, his recent slump, and whether playing in the Four Nations will be enough to revive his game for the rest of the season. And that's coming up in just a moment. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. That's fanduel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. And us. All right. It's no secret that Patrik Laine is struggling a little bit right now. We obviously had some rope to give him, but I'm wondering if this break and playing for his country and alongside his teammates, maybe a little bit of a different, change of scenery, is going to help him out and right the ship, so to speak. What are your thoughts?
It certainly has the opportunity to. It almost feels like, some players, it's better that they stayed to sort of figure their stuff out. Like, I'm kind of glad Suzuki's not going. Figure that out. Kind of glad Caulfield's not going. I'm kind of glad Slovakia's not there, so Slav can figure it out. But I feel like for Laine, he needs to play through this. Like, he
He
needs
needs
to
to
get more
remember
puck
he's
touches.
awesome.
Yeah, right, exactly. He needs to rebuild that confidence. The one thing I struggle with there is I don't know that the international stage is necessarily the best place to do that. Laine has only played at an international tournament like this once since he was drafted. He was drafted and then he played in that 2016 World Cup. He was a rookie. He hadn't played NHL games at that point. He played 3 games, no points. He went to the I believe he went to the World Championships after that, and he had 6 games, one goal. Since other than that, before he was drafted, he would light it up at these tournaments. His U20 tournament, in 7 games, 13 points. U20 tournament, at international juniors, 15 games, 21 points. Like he plays well on that stage. At least he did before he was drafted. So I wonder, is he going to be leaned on by Finland to be the one of the guys? I don't know at this point in his career, or at least this point in his season, if that's reasonable to expect him to do.
Or even realistic, right? I think it would be really cruel to kind of just put him in that situation given how he's playing right now. But they picked him for the team for a reason when he was still injured, and it wasn't even clear when he was really coming back. So, there seems to be some method to his madness. And if you look at his professional career, yes, he has not been in a tournament like that. But I do think that there's something about the way that it's a mental game for him, right? So he does need to remember what he's able to do. So I think the more they do kind of put him in situations like that gradually, maybe not, right off the opening face off, but a little bit like, well into like the first game, I think he'll find himself, right? And I think it's really interesting that you said that you're glad that Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slav are not going. Do you think that they will be staying at home and thinking about what they did?
No, I don't think so. Because they had to name these rosters so long ago. Like it wasn't they were playing well when they picked those teams,
Yeah.
right? And that just they Slav and well, not Slav. He's not in this tournament because unless he's got a different passport, he's not playing. But with Caulfield and Suzuki, like they were playing well leading up to it. They were never going to make those teams, just given the roster construction that was going on there. So I don't think so. I don't think they're sitting at home, and I hope they're not sitting at home. I hope they're on a beach somewhere. Honestly, like take the next 2 weeks, go chill out. Like people get really upset when hockey players like relax for some reason. Like, oh, now you can just chill out. Why aren't you scoring? Like, just let these guys go and relax somewhere. Come back and beat the crap out of Ottawa in the first game
Yeah.
back, and none of us care. But with Laine, like, if they can do one thing for us, keep him in the same spot on that power play and feed him the puck over and over again, and just let him regain that muscle, right? Just let him rebuild that confidence in that shot. I don't want to see him dusting it off on the way in, like catching it and then trying to shoot it. Just hammer the puck, man. If they can get that back to the place that it was at the beginning of December, we're laughing, right? Like we're gonna have a much more successful stretch of games when they come back, because the first power play unit's just been terrible for Montreal. If Laine can get that figured out and come back with that confidence, and he's going to play some games at the Bell Center, right? Like that's home for him. He's going to
Yeah.
be comfortable there. Let's see how he does. I'm curious to see how he responds, quite honestly.
And so for me, like the other question is, and which is a negative one, is like if he doesn't do well in that tournament at all, or if they don't play him a whole lot, does that then have a negative effect on him for the rest of the season?
Maybe not. Maybe it's sort of a wake up call for him that he needs to do more. I think I mentioned this last episode, and I definitely mentioned it when we were on Game Over with Kay over the weekend, which is that like I find it funny that he's become this lightning rod for this sort of criticism. And like I think I mentioned, Suzuki has 1 point in his last 6 games. And like, why is he not getting any of that criticism? Like, we all just seem to put it on this guy that we know it's socially acceptable for us to put it on that guy
Yeah.
because he's been scapegoated everywhere he's been. So I think there's some sort of like psychological thing that we go, well, everybody else used to say it was all his fault, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And like, we're fine with it, but we can't say anything about Nick Suzuki. We can't say anything about Cole Caulfield. We can rip on Slav. That's fine. But like, you can very much tell, like, there's guys that we cannot talk about not playing well, and Suzuki's one of them. He's not performing.
And he needs to. And the thing, I think
And he
the
needs
difference
to.
with Suzuki is that usually he's really good at owning it. And in the last little while, I haven't seen it that much.
Nope. No, it's been quiet. It's been quiet. That line looks dejected. They need to figure it out, and they're going to have a different approach to this when they come back. It's going to be rest versus rust for them. Can they come back and be great? And can Laine have a positive experience in this tournament and come back a changed player heading into the final stretch of the season? There's a lot of storylines like that we're kind of just going to have to wait on for the next 2 weeks and see how they develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe they'll go on vacation together. I don't know. I always see like they do that kind of thing. Maybe they'll do that. I really hope that Yoel Armia is playing. I was gonna say I really hope that Yoel Armia and Jake Evans get some quality time together before they get split up by a trade.
That might the train on that one might have left the station, Laura. I hate to break it to you, but we might have seen Jake Evans' last game as a Montreal Canadien. That's the long and short of it, which is a bummer, but that is what it is.
We'll resign to it though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So is it time for our trivia?
It is. Let's revisit yesterday's question, which was a follow the guy career path. It went Minnesota, Montreal, Ottawa, Boston, Florida, New York Islanders. Laura, do you remember the answer?
No, because I said someone which we're going to use for another trivia question.
Yeah.
And then I got lost in that. What was the answer?
Yeah, no. It is Mike Riley, former Montreal Canadiens defenseman, currently with the New York Islanders. I will say he's been out since November with he had a heart procedure. He's, we're wishing him the best. That's scary stuff, but he did give an update. He seems to be doing well. So pulling from Mike Riley there. I always used to think Mike Riley was really funny because he's like when he was in Montreal, he was like an average replacement level defenseman, but every once in a while would get the puck and he would think he was Bobby Orr. That was an really entertaining player to watch during some very not entertaining periods for the Montreal Canadiens. All right, sticking with the international tone on this last question, who was the last player to score a goal at the Olympics while also under contract with the Montreal Canadiens? So Juraj Slafkovsky does not count. He was not under contract. So that's the sort of thing that we are looking for here. If you have the answer, put it in the comments, email it to us, send it to us. We'll shout you out on the next episode.
And as for the rest of us, we will be here, as I mentioned off the top of the episode, every day this week, as well as next week. Just because the Canadiens aren't playing, that doesn't mean we're not here for you. We actually have a special episode coming up this Thursday where 3 shows get together and argue about who deserves the Calder this year. I will be the representative for Montreal, obviously. I wonder who I'm going to be talking about. But we've got plenty of stuff. So you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. You can find us all over social media. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Blue Sky, and we're also Gmail, all at Locked On Canadiens. Please send us your mailbag questions. You'll find my co-host at Maybe It's Ian. You'll find me at The Active Stick. We want to thank everyone so much for listening, and we will see you all tomorrow.